I consider myself a careful person. I've always been cautious, especially when it comes to the dark web. As a horror content creator, I often explore eerie places online for inspiration. But I never dive too deep. I have rules, strict ones, to keep myself safe. Never share personal information, never click random links, and above all, never stay too long. That night, I broke all of them. It started innocently enough. I was scrolling through forums looking for unusual stories when I stumbled upon a thread titled The Silent Auction. The description read, "Unique items and services you won't find anywhere else. Enter at your own risk." At first, I dismissed it. It sounded like another scam. But the replies caught my attention. I found exactly what I was looking for. It's not a scam. It's real. Too real. Be careful what you bid on. The posts were cryptic but intriguing. Against my better judgment, I clicked the link. The site was minimalist, almost clinical. A stark black background with white text. The header read, "Welcome to the silent auction. Bid wisely." The interface was simple. Each item was listed with a brief description and a countdown timer. There were no images, just ominous titles. A life for sale. The last goodbye. Secrets that should stay buried. Curiosity burned in me as I scrolled through the listings. Most of them seemed vague, like they were designed to lure in the reckless. But one entry made me pause. Item hash 42. The Watcher's Eye. See what they don't want you to see. The starting bid was $50. It sounded ridiculous, almost laughable. But something about it tugged at me. Was it a story idea, a prank, a scam? I decided to play along. I placed the minimum bid and waited. The timer ticked down to 0, and I got a message. "Congratulations, you've won item hash 42. Instructions will follow shortly." That should have been the end of it. Just a strange experience to chalk up to my dark web misadventures. But 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was an email from an unknown sender. "Your payment has been received. The Watcher's Eye is on its way." I froze. I hadn't paid anything. Before I could process it, another message arrived. "Delivery ETA. 3 hours. Do not look away when it arrives." My stomach churned. This had to be a joke, a troll tracking my activity. But the unease wouldn't leave. 3 hours later, just as promised, there was a knock at my door. It was almost midnight, and I wasn't expecting anyone. My heart pounded as I approached the door, armed with a kitchen knife. "Who is it?" I called out. No response. I hesitated, then peeked through the peephole. No one was there. When I opened the door, I found a small package on the mat. It was wrapped in plain brown paper, with no return address. Against my better judgment, I brought it inside and unwrapped it. Inside was a single item, an old tarnished brass key with an engraving that read, "For the Watcher." That night, strange things began to happen. It started with whispers, barely audible, like someone murmuring in another room. I checked everywhere, but I was alone. Then came the shadows, faint at first but soon unmistakable. They moved across the walls, independent of any light source. I tried to sleep, but my dreams were plagued with unsettling visions. A figure stood at the foot of my bed, watching me. Its face was obscured, but I could feel its gaze piercing through me. When I woke up, the key was on my nightstand. I didn't remember putting it there. The next day, Another email arrived. The Watcher sees all. Rules must be followed. Attached was a list of rules. 1. Keep the key with you at all times. 2. Do not try to destroy or discard the key. 3. Do not look directly at the Watcher. 4. Do not speak of the Watcher to anyone. My first instinct was to throw the key away, but something stopped me, a gnawing fear that breaking the rules would have consequences. Over the next few days, the activity intensified. The shadows grew darker, the whispers louder. Objects in my home began to move on their own. One night, I woke up to find the key glowing faintly. A cold dread filled the room as I realized I wasn't alone. In the corner of my room stood the figure from my dreams. Its face was still obscured, but its presence was overwhelming. I remembered the third rule: do not look directly at the Watcher. I shut my eyes and prayed it would go away. When I opened them, it was gone. Desperate for answers, I returned to the silent auction. The sight was different now, darker, more foreboding. My account had changed as well. Under my profile, a new status appeared: Watchers Chosen. A message awaited me. The Watcher has taken an interest in you. Complete the task, and you may be free. The task was vague. Bring another into the fold. I knew what it meant. They wanted me to lure someone else to the auction, to pass the curse on to them. I wrestled with the decision for days. Every moment was a waking nightmare. The shadows grew bolder, the whispers more menacing. The Watcher appeared more frequently, its presence suffocating. One night, as I sat in front of my computer, a chat window popped up on the screen. The message read, "Choose, or the Watcher will choose for you." In a moment of weakness, I sent the link to an acquaintance, a casual friend who loved horror as much as I did. I justified it to myself. They'd think it was a game, a story idea. They wouldn't take it seriously. The next day, the activity in my home stopped. The shadows, the whispers, even the Watcher, gone. I felt a wave of relief, followed quickly by guilt. That evening I received a text from my friend. "What is this? Did you send me this link? Weird stuff is happening." I ignored it. Weeks passed, and life returned to normal. I thought I was free. But one night, while reviewing footage for my YouTube channel, I noticed something strange. In the background of one of my videos, a shadow moved across the wall. My blood ran cold. Then came the emails. Messages from the silent auction flooded my inbox. "You thought it was over? The Watcher never forgets. You're still one of us." And finally, "Your turn is coming again." I realized too late that there was no escape. The Watcher wasn't gone. It was waiting. And now, as I sit here writing this, I feel its presence again. The shadows are moving. The whispers are growing louder. And the key is glowing once more. The key glowed brighter, casting eerie patterns on my walls. My heart pounded as I reached for it, unsure of what would happen next. But as soon as my fingers touched the cold metal, the whispers stopped. For a moment, I thought the nightmare was over. But then I noticed something strange. The key wasn't glowing anymore. It was burning. A searing pain shot through my hand as I dropped the key. It hit the floor with a metallic clang, and the room plunged into darkness. When the lights flickered back on, my reflection in the mirror across the room caught my eye. My heart stopped. It wasn't my face. The face staring back at me was pale, hollow-eyed, and distorted, as if it belonged to the watcher itself. Its lips curled into a smile I wasn't making. I stumbled back, my breathing ragged, but the reflection didn't move. "Do you see now?" A voice echoed in my head. It was deep, guttural, and inhuman. I turned away from the mirror, but the voice persisted. "You've been chosen for something greater. You're not the victim anymore." The room began to warp, the walls bending and twisting unnaturally. The key, now glowing red-hot, floated in the air before me. I felt an overwhelming compulsion to grab it. Against every instinct, I reached out. The moment I touched it, a flood of visions overwhelmed me. I saw myself in hundreds of different places, watching strangers from the shadows. These weren't memories, they were premonitions. "You are the watcher now," the voice whispered. I screamed, but no sound came out. As the visions faded, I found myself in a familiar place, the homepage of the silent auction. Only this time, the interface was different. My account now read, Auctioneer. New items were listed, but they weren't vague descriptions anymore. They were specific. Item hash 101, a night of silence, for Endrick. Item hash 102, the last goodbye for Latham. I froze. These were my friends, people I cared about. A countdown appeared on the screen, 5 minutes to bid. I tried to close the browser, but it wouldn't let me. The timer ticked down, and a new message appeared. "If you do not bid, the watcher will decide." Panic consumed me. I didn't want to bid, but I didn't want the watcher to decide either. My finger hovered over the mouse, torn between options. When the timer hit 0, the screen went black. A line of text appeared. "The watcher has chosen." The key began to glow again, but this time it didn't stay inanimate. It floated into the air and pointed toward my door. A knock echoed through the room. My blood ran cold. I opened the door hesitantly, and there stood a figure cloaked in darkness. Its face was obscured, but it held out a hand. In its palm was another key, identical to mine. "You're not alone anymore," it said. Its voice was eerily similar to mine. Before I could respond, it stepped into my house and disappeared into the shadows. Days turned into weeks, and the activity in my house grew stranger. Shadows moved independently, whispers escalated into screams, and my reflection in mirrors began to interact with me. One night, I received an email from the silent auction. It read, "The final auction begins now." The screen displayed a single item, freedom. But the cost was horrifying. The lives of 3 people you love. A countdown began. 24 hours to decide. I couldn't do it. I couldn't sacrifice my friends. But as the clock ticked down, I felt the watcher's presence growing stronger. When the timer hit 0, my screen lit up with a new message. "You've chosen poorly." The names of 3 random strangers appeared on the screen, followed by the words, "They will take your place." The room twisted and warped again, and I found myself back at the beginning, staring at the homepage of the silent auction. But this time, a new item was listed. Item hash 666, Robinson's Story. It's my name. The description read, "A tale of terror, betrayal, and the price of curiosity, available for bidding now." And then I realized the horrifying truth. My story was being sold to someone else. Somewhere out there, another curious soul was about to bid on me. And when they did, the cycle would begin again. The watcher never forgets. The watcher never stops. And now, neither do I. It started with boredom. As a content creator, I'm always looking for the next big idea to terrify my audience. My YouTube channel thrives on horror, and I pride myself on delivering stories that send chills down spines. But after a while, the usual sources, Reddit, folklore, even creepy emails from fans, started feeling predictable. I needed something fresh, something raw. That's when I decided to revisit the dark web. I'd dabbled before, cautiously skimming the surface of that shadowy underworld. But this time, I wanted to dig deeper. It was a cold, quiet night. My room was dimly lit by the glow of my monitor. I'd taken all the necessary precautions, VPN, Tor browser, and a disposable email address. The plan was simple: explore, gather inspiration, and log off before I got in too deep. After hours of dead ends, I stumbled upon a site called The Forgotten Forum. Its tagline caught my attention: "Where the lost find their way." The homepage was plain, almost archaic. A black background with white text and a single prompt: "Enter your deepest fear to begin." At first, I hesitated. It felt like one of those gimmicky scare sites designed to mess with curious visitors. But something about it felt different, ominous. Against my better judgment, I typed, "Being forgotten." The screen flickered and a thread appeared. "Welcome, James. User since 0 days." How did it know my name? My heart skipped a beat. I was using a fake email and a generic username. This shouldn't have been possible. A single post was visible on the forum titled, "A Story Just for You." Curiosity overpowered fear. I clicked. The post was short, but it made my blood run cold. "You think you're alone, but you're not. Look behind you." I laughed nervously. Classic scare tactic. Without turning, I typed, "Nice try." The response was instant. "I'm not joking." My webcam light blinked on. Panic surged through me as I quickly covered it with tape. My heart was pounding now. But when I looked back at the screen, the post had changed. A new image had appeared, a live feed of my room, captured from the corner near the ceiling. That angle was impossible. There was no camera in that spot. I spun around, scanning the room. Nothing. Just the faint hum of my computer and the muted sounds of the world outside. Then I heard it. A faint rustling, like someone shifting their weight on the floorboards. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No response. I turned back to the screen. A new message awaited me. "You've already let us in." I shut the laptop and paced the room, trying to rationalize what was happening. It had to be a hacker, some sick prank. But the sound wouldn't stop. The rustling grew louder, more deliberate. I checked every corner of my room, every closet, and even under the bed. Nothing. Still, that gnawing feeling of being watched wouldn't go away. Against my better judgment, I reopened the laptop. The forum was gone, replaced by a black screen with a single line of text. "Step 1 complete. Are you ready for the next level?" There was no option to reply, no button to click. Just those haunting words staring back at me. And then my phone buzzed. The message was from an unknown number. "Don't ignore us." I dropped the phone as if it burned me. The screen of my laptop began glitching, images flashing too quickly for me to comprehend. But one frame lingered just long enough for me to see. A photo of me, sitting at my desk, taken from outside my window. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house felt amplified, every shadow a potential threat. By morning, I convinced myself it was over. Just a bad experience with some dark web troll. But the messages didn't stop. Emails flooded my inbox, all from the Forgotten Forum. They contained cryptic phrases. The game isn't over. Time is running out. You can't escape. I deleted them, but more appeared. Then came the packages. The first one arrived 2 days later. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid photo of me sleeping, taken from inside my room. I called the police. They searched the house, found no signs of forced entry, and assured me it was probably a prank. But their reassurances did little to quell the dread curling in my gut. I installed cameras in every room, bought new locks, and even stayed with a friend for a few nights. But wherever I went, the messages followed. One night, while reviewing footage from my cameras, I saw something that made my blood run cold. At 3:33 a.m., the camera in my living room captured a figure standing perfectly still in the doorway. They were cloaked in shadow, their face obscured, but they were watching. After a few minutes, the figure slowly raised a hand and waved at the camera. When I checked the other cameras, there was nothing, no sign of anyone entering or leaving the house. Desperation led me back to the dark web. I reopened Tor, retraced my steps, and found myself back on the Forgotten Forum. This time, the homepage was different. It displayed a single message. "Welcome back. Ready to finish the story?" I clicked, and a new post appeared. "You're not the first, and you won't be the last. But you're special. You've seen what others ignore. You felt the truth. Now it's time to meet them." A new file downloaded automatically, a video. Against my better judgment, I opened it. The footage was shaky, as if recorded on a handheld camera. It showed a group of people in masks, standing in a circle around a bound and gagged figure. The room was dimly lit, but I recognized the victim immediately. It was me. The video cut to black, replaced by a countdown, 24 hours. I didn't know what to do. Running seemed pointless. They always knew where I was. Telling anyone felt dangerous. What if they hurt someone else? As the countdown ticked closer to 0, I prepared for the worst. I locked every door, armed myself with whatever I could find, and waited. When the clock struck 0, my laptop screen came to life. A live feed of my room appeared, showing me sitting at my desk. Then the lights went out. I heard them before I saw them. Footsteps, whispers, the unmistakable sound of a door creaking open. And then in the darkness, a voice. "Welcome to the story." The last thing I remember is the sensation of cold hands gripping my shoulders. I woke up hours later, disoriented, in a room I didn't recognize. The walls were covered in Polaroids of me, eating, sleeping, working, every moment of my life documented. In the center of the room was a laptop, open to the Forgotten Forum. A new post awaited me. "Congratulations, you're one of us now." The screen flickered, and my reflection stared back at me. Except it wasn't me. The face in the screen was smiling, while I wasn't. The last thing I heard before the laptop shut itself off was a whisper. "You'll never be forgotten again." I've always been fascinated by the unexplored corners of the internet. As someone who creates horror content for a living, it felt like diving into the dark web was just another way to find inspiration. I told myself it was all for research, stories to terrify my audience. But deep down, I think I just wanted to know how far I could push myself before fear got the better of me. So one quiet Friday night, I sat at my desk, the soft hum of my computer keeping me company. I had done my research, VPN activated, Tor browser downloaded, and every precaution in place to keep my identity hidden. My goal was simple: explore the dark web, maybe stumble upon some creepy tales, and log off before midnight. At first it was underwhelming: a marketplace selling bizarre items, a forum filled with incoherent ramblings, and then something that caught my eye, a site called The Last Click. Its description was cryptic. For those who seek the ultimate truth, one click is all it takes. I hesitated. There were no reviews, no chatter about it on any forum. It was as if the site didn't exist until I stumbled upon it. Against my better judgment, I clicked. The screen went black for a moment, and then text appeared in blood-red font. Welcome, John Cena. Are you prepared to see your fears unfold? My stomach dropped. How did it know my username? I had made sure everything was anonymous. I thought about closing the browser, but curiosity burned hotter than fear. I typed, yes. A series of grainy, looping videos began to play. People in dimly lit rooms, their faces obscured, whispering in unison. We're watching. We're waiting. It was unsettling, sure, but I convinced myself it was some low-budget scare tactic. I was about to log off when I noticed the videos weren't looping anymore. One of the figures turned directly to the camera and said my name. My full name. I froze. That's not possible, I whispered to myself. The figure continued. We know what you're looking for. Stay if you dare. Suddenly, my webcam light blinked on. I hadn't touched it. Before I could react, the screen displayed a live feed of my room. It was me, sitting at my desk, looking horrified. I yanked the webcam cord from my computer, but the feed didn't stop. In fact, the angle shifted, showing me from a different perspective, one that was impossible because it was coming from right behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, but the room was empty. Then I heard it, a faint scratching sound coming from the closet. I wanted to leave, but the screen flashed with another message. Don't run. You won't like what happens if you do. The scratching grew louder. Against all logic, I grabbed the nearest object, a desk lamp, and approached the closet. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. When I flung it open, there was nothing there, just darkness. I backed away, my breath shaky, and returned to my desk. The site had changed again. This time it displayed a countdown, 10 minutes. What happens in 10 minutes? I typed. The response was instant. The last click. Frustrated and terrified, I began closing every window, every tab, but the countdown wouldn't leave the screen. Even restarting my computer didn't work. Then my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Running out of time. I dropped the phone like it was on fire. The clock was down to 5 minutes now. My mind raced. Was this a prank? Had someone hacked me? I tried pulling the plug on my computer, but the screen stayed on, the countdown relentless. And then came the knock. 3 sharp knocks at my front door. I didn't answer. Instead, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. But when the operator picked up, her voice was distorted. Hello? Who's there? I shouted. The voice replied, You shouldn't have clicked. I threw the phone down. The knocking came again, louder this time. I peered through the peephole, but no one was there. I turned back to the computer. The countdown was at 1 minute. The screen now showed a single prompt. Click to reveal the truth. No, I whispered. The knocking became pounding. With 10 seconds left, the screen began showing live footage. Me, sitting at the desk, the closet behind me now slightly ajar. I couldn't take it anymore. I clicked. The pounding stopped. The screen went black. For a moment, there was silence. Then in the reflection of the blank screen, I saw someone standing behind me. I spun around, but the room was empty. When I turned back to the computer, the sight was gone. My desktop looked normal, like nothing had happened. But the feeling of being watched never left. Weeks later, strange things started happening. Emails I never wrote were sent from my account. Packages I didn't order arrived at my door. And then one night I woke up to find a sticky note on my desk. It read, "The truth is watching.